Here we are, the final game of the home and away season, and it is bigger than it should be. Let's get into it. So we know what we have to do. We have to win. We have to stop this three-game losing streak. And we have to come out and not only beat Melbourne, we have to smash Melbourne. A little bit later in the video, I'll give you some scenarios of points and all of this sort of stuff in the Port Adelaide and Essendon and Gold Coast games. I'll give you those scenarios a little bit later. But let's talk about this bloody game. So the Demons are coming off a 36-point loss to the Hawks last week. And it was a 36-point loss, but the usual suspects still had a good game. Max Gorn was probably one of the best on ground, definitely the best for the Demons. Viney, Oliver, Salem, Petrarca. All of these guys, these core guys, were the ones that sort of nearly piped us earlier on this season when we played them, and we ended up winning by a point after they had just gotten smashed by the Suns up in Darwin. So it makes for a very interesting game. Melbourne have nothing really to play for because obviously they're not playing finals, but they also have an audition for whoever wants to coach them. So they want to put on their brave face and they want to puff out their chest and they want to win. Obviously, you always want to win, but this has just got a little bit more of an extra spark. So Troy Chaplin's their coach at the moment. He doesn't want to coach them going forward. He's just their sort of standing coach. There's talks about Buckley and Hinkley and all these guys, and they'll be looking on and seeing if this Melbourne team, if they need to make changes when they come in, if they need to drop a lot of these older players, or are they going to keep them? So it is a dress rehearsal for Melbourne as well, and to give their fans hope in 2026. So I do not think for 1 second that these bastards are going to roll over and just let us, have our way with them and beat them by 40, 50, 60 points. Now, in a bit of a weird sort of parallel, cast your mind back to 2017. We played Melbourne in the last game of the year. Melbourne needed to win to make finals. Collingwood were around that 13th mark, and we were just sort of playing how Melbourne are playing right now, where you want to win to give your fans something and to kick Melbourne out of finals. We ended up beating them. Now, Melbourne can't kick us out of finals, but what they can do is they can kick us out of the top four, because losing this game guarantees that we don't play in the top four in this final series. And we all know that it's nearly impossible. A couple of teams have done it, Brisbane being one of them last year from fifth, to win the flag outside of the top four, especially when you have to, do the flag the long way and you don't get those couple of breaks in between. Now, Collingwood's game last week against Adelaide has been dissected to a T from various channels and all this media and stuff like this, so we'll only touch on it really quickly. But I loved what I saw last week. Yes, I didn't love the 71 inside 50s for 8 goals, 8 and 16 scoring shots from that, which was shithouse. What I did like, though, was just the fight and the hunt of these players to go to Adelaide, the ladder leaders, the best team in it at the moment. A lot of media reports and all that, journals and stuff had us getting smashed, by at least a few goals, and to only lose by 3 points because of whatever it may have been, was the best outcome from a loss. Obviously, a better outcome would be to win, but what it did show is that we can still compete at a very high capacity, and it was a finals-like game. The finals-like pressure, 80 plus tackles, 30 plus tackles inside the forward 50. So we can bring that pressure. In that first quarter, there was such fluid ball movement from the Pies, and it looked like the Pies from when we were 10 points clear on top, it looked like we were those Pies again, the pressure Pies and not the pressured Pies. Ultimately, we lose that game because of our mid to forward connection. I dare say that is going to be reviewed so hard going forward this week in every single team meeting. So I don't know if we're we shouldn't really worry that that's not going to be fixed, because it's something so glaringly obvious that it definitely will be fixed. Hopefully, that's all you can kind of hope, and that you can kind of take out of that game, where we just connect with that. You're scoring more goals. You're putting a higher margin for the other team to sort of come back from. We've done everything else right last week against the Crows. It was just that mid to forward connection that we have to fix up. The biggest thing going into this Melbourne game is our best 23. Now, we know Jeremy Howe will come back. We know Bobby Hill won't play. Well, according to Fly, and he wasn't at training on Monday. We'll see if he's going to be at main training on Wednesday, but I'm 99% sure that he won't play. So we also know that our forward line has been misfiring. Our big key forwards haven't been in the form that they were at the start of the season. I'm looking at McStay, I'm looking at Myercheck as well. I think Memory and Elliott are doing their jobs. They have, especially Elliott has slowed down a lot, but, he kicked a couple goals on the weekend. So did Memory, but Myercheck and McStay are the worries for me right now. But again, it's that mid-forward connection. Now, here are my predicted ins and outs. I'll walk you through them. I do only think that there's going to be one in and out. I do think only Howe comes in, but I think Allen misses out. Was used in that last quarter. Didn't do much. It's in the last quarter. Like, what can he do? I can't wait for 2026 to come in where there's no sub rule and we're just 5 on the bench, because it'll help out so much. But I do think it's probably only one in and out, Howe and Allen. I think Parker did absolutely incredible things and he needs to stay in the team. It released Dan Houston. We've talked about this previously, and we just looked better when Dan Houston was higher up the ground playing his brand of football. And we've found someone in Parker. This guy, or this kid, should I say, because he's so young still, could be that small defender that we've needed for a long time, and he's releasing other players. So I think he stays in the team. I do have him in my version as a sub, but that could change if we're doing one in and out. So if Howe comes in and Allen comes out, I could see that Lipinski could be the sub for those fresh legs coming on, kind of like Allen, but with Lipinski's experience. But in this version, I've got 3 players coming in, 3 players going out, and Parker as the sub. So I've got Howe, Roan Steele, and Mason Cox coming in, Allen, Lipinski, and Dan McStay coming out. Now, I know that's messing with the team a lot, especially on the eve of finals. I know it's bye week next week, but still on the eve of finals, what does that sort of mean? How have we not still got our chemistry going? But we've been talking about rewarding VFL performances, and Roan still had 32 disposals on the weekend on the wing, running up and down, and he looked absolutely incredible. Lipinski has had a few weeks where he's been really, really down. He got subbed out last week, had 10 disposals, just wasn't at his best. And we know from, we've done a video about it, about how Lipinski was the best kick going inside 50 to convert those to scores. And then he just dropped off. And I know all the team dropped off, so you can't just be putting this on one player. But the last couple of weeks, he hasn't been up and about like he usually is. So I've got him coming out for Roan Steele, who will just put in 110%. We've only seen him for 2 games, had a great debut against Carlton, a little bit quiet against Gold Coast, but then again, everyone was pretty quiet against Gold Coast until about halfway through that third quarter. Now, this was the big one for me, and one that I didn't like doing. I've got Mason Cox coming in for Dan McStay. Now, Jeremy Howe coming in means that McStay won't have to play in the back line if McStay does play, and that's great because McStay being a forward and a second ruck works the best for me. It worked the best at the start of the year, all the way up until Jeremy Howe and Billy Frampton were injured. So I don't mind McStay staying in if he just has to play forward and second ruck. But when do you sort of say enough is not enough is enough? Because McStay, I feel sorry for him because he has had to play, 3 positions in every game. He's had to play three different positions. So I do feel sorry for him. But based on form at the moment, Mason Cox has put together a couple of really good weeks in the VFL. Took 8 marks last week against Port Melbourne, 4 contested marks, kicked a goal, 6 clearances, and going up against Gawn as well. I want to double team him with Cameron and Mason Cox, and this could really give Mason Cox a shot at trying to stake his claim into the team. Could be his last shot at playing for the Pies, really, because we don't really know what's going to happen. And if we're sort of saying that if it's good for one, it's good for another. So if someone is down on form, Yes, you can play them into form, but it's just not happening at the moment. If we're going to be still employing this tactic of, instead of lowering our eyes, just kicking the ball long and in hope, Mason Cox is that guy who can stay there. He's got that insanely unlimited reach. And if he doesn't mark it, he's bringing the ball to ground because he does that really perfectly, opens it up for our smaller forwards, much like a Bo or a Nick when he's down there, a Lockie Schultz. It would have been amazing for Bobby Hill, but Bobby Hill won't be playing. So Jamie Elliott. So it does open it up for players like that. So that would be my three ins and outs. I don't want Parker as the sub because it does open up Houston, but I can't really see anyone else being the sub because it's such an important game that, if Parker is the sub in this scenario where we're making three changes, in that third quarter he comes on, or at the start of the fourth quarter, and then it opens up Dan Houston, and then Dan Houston can run and gun in that last quarter. So now I want to talk about the different scenarios that can happen and what needs to happen for us to stay in the top four if Gold Coast win both of their games. Now, this was sent in to me by Liam. He did these calculations. Had ChatGPT to help him, and he cross-referenced them with the AFL app and all this sort of stuff. So these numbers are pretty spot on. So using the exact percentage formula, points for, points against, and assuming a typical total score of about 170 in the Pies and the Demons, which is about 85 points, or 100 points and 70 points, however you sort of want to make it out to be, and 330 points, or around 330 points across the two Suns games, which are the Port Adelaide game that they play on Friday night as well, and the Essendon game that they're making up for from the opening round. The Suns' combined margin needed to catch Collingwood's percentage is approximately this. Now, Collingwood margin versus Melbourne. If we lose by 30, the Suns only need a combined margin, so Port Adelaide and the Essendon game, they need to win both, right? But to tie the percentage. So if we lose by 30 or over 30, all they need is 10 points to jump us. If we draw, so the points sort of stay the same still, they'll need 42 points across two games. Win by 10 points, they'll need 53 points across two games, which is about 25 points, 25-point win each of those games. If we win by 20, it's 64. Win by 30, 74. Win by 40, 85. Win by 60, 106. Now, at the start of the video, I said, we need to beat Melbourne, but not just beat them. We can't just crawl over the line. We need to absolutely smash them. If we win by 40, the Suns need to make up an 85-point margin, so 40, 42, 43 points per game, which I think is the best scenario. These two teams, Port and Essendon, you can't trust them that they'll win, for one. Maybe Port has a chance because it's Ken Hinkley's last game. It's Ken Hinkley's last game. It's Travis Boak's last game as well. So maybe they rally and they beat the Suns. That'll be best case scenario. The Suns lose one of these games. But what we need to do is focus on our own backyard, and we need to absolutely come out and smash the Demons by over 40 points. I want an over 40-point win, and it'll just give us some good steam going into finals as well. We can't crawl over the line in this game, and if we can't beat Melbourne, do we really have a shot of a flag if we can't beat a team like Melbourne who aren't going really, really well? So that's another thing that comes into it. If you watched my ladder predictor video yesterday, there are a few other scenarios that can play out. But the crux of the matter is we need to absolutely smash the Demons on Friday night. I wish we weren't talking about margins and relying on other teams, because I've always said for these 6 years I've been doing Swoop, if you need to rely on other teams, you haven't done your job right. We haven't done our job right. So let's focus on beating the Ds by, I'd love a 10-goal win. I would love a 10-goal win. Big calls and predictions. I think the Pies are going to win by 35 points. I'd love to say over 40, but at the moment, I can't see it happening. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's a 50, 60-point win, and I hope the Demons really do go into their shell and go into self-preservation mode, but I doubt it because that team hates us. Their fans hate us, so it's going to just make for an absolutely great contest. My big call is that Mason Cox comes in and kicks 3 goals. I know that sounds so. I can't remember the last time he kicked multiple goals in a game, but that is my big call. But let me know your thoughts down below. How do you think this game is going to play out? As always, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets, and until next time, double shackers. I'll swoop you later. I don't understand how we started. Just keep on